if you're going, well, let me just think better about my body, you're going to think about your body more. And the more you think about your body, the more you think about your body, which the goal is, hey, I don't want my body to be a distraction. I don't want it to be the thing that is taking me out of this like quality moment, whether it's with my husband or my kids or at work or out to dinner. My body doesn't need to be the thing on my mind. And it certainly doesn't need to be a distraction from things that I really value.
Feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and like you've lost yourself in the postpartum chaos? Wondering how to nourish your body, regain your strength, and finally feel like you again? Hey, I'm Val, a functional sports dietitian, postpartum fitness coach, and mama who's been right where you are. Welcome to the Strong and Nourished Mama podcast, where I help busy moms like you reclaim your energy, your strength, and your confidence through simple nutrition and wellness strategies. If you're ready to feel strong, nourished, and unstoppable, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome back, Mama. In today's episode, we're diving into a topic that so many moms struggle with: postpartum body image. Whether it's your first baby or your third, navigating the changes in your body after pregnancy, they can feel overwhelming, especially when there's little guidance on what to expect. My guest, Brittany Braswell, knows this firsthand as a registered dietitian and a mom of three. She shares the common struggles many moms face, the mental and emotional challenges that come with postpartum recovery, and how to shift your perspective towards self-care and healing. If you ever felt like you don't recognize your own body after birth, this conversation is for you. A little bit about Brittany real quick before I share the recording. Brittany Braswell is a registered dietitian, food freedom and body image coach, a speaker, and the host of the Faith-Filled Food Freedom podcast. With a passion for helping Christian women break free from the soul-crushing cycle of food guilt and body shame, she provides Christ-centered coaching that leads to lasting transformation. And her mission is to help women rediscover their God-given worth and experience peace with food and their bodies. No diets, no guilt, just freedom rooted in faith. I'm going to be sharing all of Brittany's information, her links, in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. I'm going to include her Instagram, Facebook group, her podcast, and her contact information if you want to get a hold of her. And I'm also sharing a freebie that she has for you, the body image cheat sheet. We talk a little bit about it at the end of the recording. She says the link in the recording. It's also in the show notes, and she has the code for you as well. And this is a freebie for my listeners. So take advantage of it, download it, and I really hope you guys enjoy today's episode. All right, let's get into it. Today we are talking all about body image, specifically after having a baby. And I know this is something that so many, if not all, moms, women struggle with at various degrees. Of course, not everyone is going to have this same struggle with body image. It's going to vary, but especially for the first time, I have a daughter. I only have one daughter. When our body changes during pregnancy, there's so many changes that are going on. And then after we have our baby, we don't really have much guidance, unfortunately, whether it's your first babe or your third babe. We don't really have much guidance when it comes to recovery and our body. And so it's really, really easy to expect, okay, I just had my baby. My body should be going back to normal. And how come it's not? And then we start to really get into our body image and our confidence starts to go down. So, Brittany, I am so excited that you're here with us today. And I want to start off with asking you, what are some of the common body image struggles that new moms or seasoned moms face when they are in that postpartum period?
Oh my goodness. Well, I feel like I've heard the gamut on so many different issues that come up. And I have had three babies. My last one is just barely over a year old. And so I've experienced a lot of these too. What I would say, number one, is that it's okay to, like, if you haven't had body image struggles before, or if you notice they're kicking up postpartum, like, you're not alone. That happens a lot. And I think one of the biggest reasons for that is because our bodies are just different. It almost, for a lot of people, I've heard women say, like, I just don't feel at home in my body. It feels like somebody else's body because you have 9 months to get used to the little changes and the big changes that are happening during pregnancy. And then postpartum, things vary different. Your hormones are going totally crazy nuts. So I remember with this last baby, the first night at home, I was like a hysterical mess. Like, why did we do this? We're never gonna sleep. I love my baby, but what were we thinking? Like, I'm gonna be a terrible mom. It's just all these irrational thoughts that come up, and then you add to your body, you add it on that like your body is physically healing, and you're still kind of in that like second trimester sort of feeling as far as how your body is, like the shape of your body and just how things feel. And so you're exhausted. That doesn't help. Like that's a huge struggle when it comes to postpartum body image because you're not really thinking clearly. The more tired you are, the less accurate you see things. And most women just feel really uncomfortable. Um, and so you can kind of go along the spectrum. I see everything from like I don't want to think about my body or my body image at all. Like, I don't want to spend the time and energy to think about it, all the way to, oh my gosh, I have to like bounce back from this immediately. And I have to start doing all these different things to try and get back to my pre-baby size or weight. And so there's a lot of the mental game when it comes to body image postpartum on you can fall anywhere along that spectrum, but I think it's mental game first, and then the physical comes along with it, obviously, as well.
That is so true because you're right. When you're postpartum, whether like with you and with your third babe, right? Or with your first, when you're really learning everything for the first time, you're exhausted. Your hormones we're going through that big hormone drop. And
Hmm.
we're just looking at our bodies like, wait, so there's not a baby in there anymore. So why does it look like I still have a baby in there? And why can't I do the things that I used to do? It's
Hmm.
big, big mental aspect. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. And it's a big struggle too, because it's like you're having this inner dialogue with yourself. You're like, no, yes, okay, no, I'm okay. I don't need to do this. But then you have those body image struggles coming in, or you're looking at yourself in the mirror, noticing, okay, why aren't things changing? Why don't I feel the same? And that's hard. And then you're trying to take
Yeah.
born and the rest of the family.
Yes. Yeah. Trying to take care of yourself when so many women are not in the mindset of like, okay, well, I gotta take care of my first. It's the baby first, and then maybe if you're a mom and of other kids, then okay, gotta take care of them too. And then we kind of just let ourselves fall to the wayside
Mhm.
oftentimes, and we don't even think about prioritizing things like our nutrition and our movement and taking care of ourselves in a way that feels good, let alone allowing ourselves to get rest. Rest is like feels like a commodity when you're a new mom.
Oh
Whether
yeah.
it's sleep, as sleep is one type of rest, but we have to prioritize other types of rest too. Mental rest being a huge one. And I think not having enough mental rest can contribute to a lot more of those disordered or unhealthy thoughts around your body as well. So it's a huge thing to prioritize.
That's true. I'm glad that you mentioned that because that can then lead to extreme thinking. So
Hmm.
we have
Yeah.
this, we're tired, we're fatigued, we're not prioritizing rest. Maybe we're probably not sleeping as good as we normally would, right? And then you see yourself in the mirror and you don't like what you see, and you may start to revert to, I'm just going to not eat, or I'm going to decrease
Yeah.
my calories, or you know what, I'm only 3 weeks postpartum, but I'm going to start going to the gym because I don't like what I see.
That can be a really, really hard thing. Trying to put yourself to social media doesn't help with this, but when you start hearing other mamas' postpartum stories, or if you start seeing, oh, well, so and so bounced back and said they recovered after however much time physically or getting back into certain activities, that can really mess with your head too, with that mental game of feeling like, oh, I'm behind, I'm not doing enough, I shouldn't still be this tired. That contributes a whole other slew of issues.
Exactly, the comparison. I want to get back to the social media, but first, you mentioned you have 3 kids. Can
Hmm.
you share a little bit like their age and share a little bit about your personal journey with postpartum body image?
So mine, I have a 7-year-old boy, a 5-year-old girl, and a 12, 13-month-old boy. And I would say physical recovery, like with each one of them, wasn't too terribly bad. With my third baby, my labors increased, the labor time decreased significantly between each one. And we didn't actually make it to the hospital with my last baby.
Oh my
We had
gosh.
to did a whole like two-part story on that. I think it's episode 70 and 71 on my show on faith-filled food freedom. So we will dive into that today. But if y'all want to hear the whole it was very dramatic, but really cool. It was a really cool like God story. And so I will say I had some stitches from that took a little while to heal, which from a body image standpoint, again, that's one of those other things that like for me, I was like, it almost added this element of I had to fight the mental thought of like, I'm not weak. Like it is okay. I'm very independent and I hate asking for help sometimes, not because there's anything wrong with asking for help, but like just want to be able to do the thing again. Like I don't want to have help for this. I want to get back to normal. And so that was a hard thing for me, body image wise, was going like, people want to help and be supportive, and there's nothing wrong with letting people do that, especially when it comes to like physically, you've got to allow yourself to kind of to have that rest. And so I would say like how the sleep deprivation, which I already mentioned, for months, my at the time of this recording, my little one still wakes up during the night. No, I don't always go in there. He'll put himself back to sleep a lot of times, but that doesn't help with the hormones either, which again adds up in the way that you see your body. And so mentally, I was exhausted really with all three, but I think this time especially learning to be a mom of three and split my time more has definitely been hard. And do like I said, I'm very independent. I enjoy being able to do the things that I do. And so being able to get back to structured routine is helpful, but it, from a body image standpoint, definitely put on a little bit of extra strain this time around, I think, because I had these expectations on here's kind of how my recoveries went the last time or two. And this time it was just a little bit harder. And so um, my last son was born in February. And so my first two were born in November. And so we were in the cold months. So I was wearing like lots of comfy clothes, right? I was in like stretchy pants and sweats and I was living the life at home. I'm in Alabama, so it doesn't get like freezing cold, like a lot of other places north of us do. But with my son being born in February, we only had a couple more months of spring, and then it was like shorts and tank tops, and it is ridiculously hot in Alabama in the middle of summer. And so most of my maternity clothes, because your body is in this weird place, a lot of my maternity clothes after a few months were like didn't quite fit as comfortably as they did when I was a little more pregnant, but the clothes that I wore before pregnancy weren't fitting. And so I was in this weird like am I in limbo? Will my other clothes fit again? And I just kind of decided, especially coming into summer, it's like I refuse to wear shorts that are going to make me draw attention to my body all the time. I'm going to constantly be either going, well, I got to undo this button, or this is too tight, or these maternity shorts are falling because only certain parts fit certain parts of my body now. And so we can get to that a little bit more if you want. But when it comes to body image, regardless of if you are immediately postpartum or you are years in the making of like years having been a mom already, you've got to dress in a way that does not cause you to be distracted by your body. Whether you love your body, whether you hate your body, whether you're just learning to tolerate it or live with it or appreciate it, wherever you are on the spectrum, the more the more that you go, well, I should fit into this now. Or I don't want to get rid of those pants because I might wear them again. When you start putting things on that are uncomfortable, that make you think about your body more than is actually necessary, that is one of the biggest triggers to negative body image. So I was very intentional this time around to choose things that were like very lightweight and comfy. I didn't choose a whole bunch of shorts unless they were like extra comfortable, stretchy kind of shorts. I went with a lot of lighter weight, flowy, casual dresses that I could still crawl around on the floor, play in, throw them on. That helped with the decision fatigue. I'm not trying to match shirts and pants or shorts, like throw on a dress and go shopping, like extra comfy, loose, flowy. And that was a huge help for me being that time of year still, especially within the first like 6 months postpartum.
I like that you mentioned that because that, especially depending when you're having your baby. So you said your first two in November. For my daughter, I had her at the end of August, which is still very hot in Albuquerque, New Mexico at that time. But then I was able to get into the cold months. But when you are going into, maybe you live in a place where it doesn't really get cold at all, and then it gets super hot. Like I'm thinking of my best friend who's in Phoenix, so it's very hot. Alabama is very hot, and then you're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't, like, I don't fit in these clothes anymore. I remember that. I don't fit in my pregnancy clothes, but I don't fit in am I ever going to fit in these? Like, do I need to buy a whole new wardrobe? And I like that you mentioned finding something that basically fits you, right? You're not trying to fit into something else. It's your body. This is where you're at right
Yes.
now. Giving yourself grace, knowing that you're healing and recovering. You just had a baby. You grew a baby from scratch. You had a baby. It's okay. It's going to take some time. And maybe you have some other options, like you said, that work for you that you're comfortable in. Because you're right,
Mhm.
you will get distracted. Like if you're wearing something that's too tight, you're like, then you're self-conscious, you're constantly moving things around.
Yep.
And it's not fun. Like you just want to be comfortable in your clothes. So finding something that
Yes.
basically fits you, right?
Yes. And I
Right.
love, and you almost said it verbatim how I say it, Val. I had this conversation with a client 2 weeks ago when they were talking about body image and clothing. And I had to remind them, like, your body wasn't made to fit specific clothing. Clothing was made for your body and not the other way around. So you get to decide what you wear. There should be no pressure to say those shorts have to fit me. You get to pick. Like, you pick whatever shorts you want. Those shorts don't get to decide if you're going to wear them or not. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And it's good to have, I remember it was like spring. So it wasn't a full year after having my daughter, maybe around this time last year. And I was going shopping. I wanted to take some professional photos, and well, obviously, not everything that I had wasn't fitting. So the body image was like top of mind because I'm about to get
Mhm.
professional photos. Nothing fits. I got to go find something that fits me right now. It's okay. And something that I can be comfortable in. And I did
Yeah.
that another time before my daughter turned 1. So I have like these two, like just a small amount of clothes in these two different areas of postpartum that I'm glad that I did, because then I wasn't stressing. I would imagine that I'd be very stressed about fitting
Yeah.
into those clothes. So
Hmm.
that's awesome. I love that. So that kind of takes us to a point where if you are trying to fit back into old clothes or clothes that you wore before you got pregnant, and you're getting frustrated, and you may start to like move things around or body checking. And
Hmm.
can you explain what body checking is first? And then maybe we can dive into why reducing it is beneficial for postpartum women.
Oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite things to talk about. So I'm gonna keep it short because I could talk about this all day. But when it comes to body checking is essentially the sometimes it does happen unintentionally, but primarily it's like you are intentionally going to see what your body looks like, feels like, and if it has changed since the last time you saw it. So for a lot of women do this just naturally as part of our day, right? When we look in the mirror to get ready in the morning. And it's not to say, hey, we should never look in the mirror, but you are, maybe you're checking to see how your makeup looks, or maybe you're getting ready. You're trying to see maybe how does this shirt fall on me? Does it match? So there's some amount of noticing our body that's just going to happen naturally. But when we intentionally go and spend extra time doing things like getting on the scale, especially a lot, the scale can be a tool for some things, right? But it can also be a big trigger, especially for body image. So it could be things like doing a lot of extra mirror checks, or when you're walking around and you just happen to start looking for reflective surfaces, like in a glass window or something. And the big problem with that when it comes to body image is the more, this is going to sound weird, but like the more you think about your body, when you're just trying to say, well, let me just think about my body in a more positive way. So many of us have probably heard kind of the buzz phrase of like body positivity. Well, body positivity, better body image does not come from body positivity. It comes from thinking about your body less, not just thinking about it better. And so if you're going, well, let me just think better about my body, you're going to think about your body more. And the more you think about your body, the more you think about your body, which the goal is, hey, I don't want my body to be a distraction. I don't want it to be the thing that is taking me out of this like quality moment, whether it's with my husband or my kids or at work or out to dinner. My body doesn't need to be the thing on my mind. And it certainly doesn't need to be a distraction from things that I really value. So what I would say when I'm trying to help a client or a student really like reduce body checking, there's a lot of different strategies that we could use for that. But I think before you even jump into the strategies, it's important to know why do I need to not focus on my body so much? And so I'll give you kind of the high level view of what I call the body focus and intentionality framework. And I'm a nerd. I used to love like math and the little XY axis and charting all the things. And so if you just visually picture like squares, like two squares and two squares, like if you played four square, in middle school or something, right? If you think about that bottom left square and you think about if body focus is on this horizontal line, like left to right, very little focus on your body to tons of focus over here on the right, high body focus. And then you have this up down, vertical axis where bottom is really low intentionality with what you choose to do with your body and really high intentionality the higher you go up, right? So left to right, up and down, low to high focus and intentionality. So many of us think we need to be in that top right corner where we have really high focus on our body and really high intentionality with how we care for it. Because people think, well, I'll do all the things I need to do to, quote unquote, eat well, exercise, and self-care. But when we're constantly focused on that, you end up in this place of just like body obsessed and perfectionistic tendencies. That's where you also tend to fall into things like orthorexia or this sort of obsession with like clean or healthy eating. So that gets really, really dangerous. So it's not that we need no focus or just like super low focus on our body all the time, but the sweet spot when it comes to focus and intentionality is low focus, high intentionality. So if you're thinking about this quadrant, this would be like your top left one, because what happens in this stage is we're not thinking about our body until it really requires us to respond to it. Right. So maybe you notice that you're hungry, or maybe you notice that you're getting really tired, or maybe you notice, hey, my bladder's full, or my toddler just did something that made me jump and gasp, and like, like my body responded to that. Right. So when we have a high level of intentionality, we get the signal from our body that says your heart is beating, right? Like you need to respond. You get in that fight or flight mode, or hey, you're hungry. Then instead of going, oh, I shouldn't be eating right now, I've eaten too much, right? Or my hunger level's all over the place. I should ignore that. I ate 30 minutes ago. I shouldn't be hungry. Then we just start thinking about our bodies more, and we start telling our body, what you're telling me doesn't matter and it's irrelevant. But when we respond to it and we go, okay, why might I be hungry right now if I ate 30 minutes ago? And we can go, okay, well, maybe I ate something that wasn't very satiating. Or maybe I am postpartum and my toddler's been breastfeeding, or my newborn's been breastfeeding for the last 45 minutes and I need to be refueled. Can take away the shame and we can go, let me just respond to whatever my body is doing. Let me respond to what it's doing in a way that's going to be effective and appropriate and helpful or beneficial. And then you get back with the rest of your day and you're not focusing on your body until it tells you, hey, you have to go to the bathroom, or hey, you just stepped on the Lego that got left out in the middle of the living room. So that's really where you finally start feeling empowered and confident in your ability to see your body in a better light and to nourish and care for it in a beneficial way.
So you want to heal your core and get strong again, but you feel like it's going to take too much time, energy, and effort? Listen, mama, no, no, and no to all of that, because restoring your core, it doesn't have to be complicated or overwhelming. In my Restore Your Core Bootcamp, I am going to teach you simple, effective exercises that fit into your busy mom life. So no long, exhausting workouts, no confusing advice. There's already enough of that on social media. Just real practical steps to help you start rebuilding your strength without spending hours at the gym. I will show you exactly what to do so you can feel confident in your body again without second guessing if you're making things worse. Let's make this so easy, mama. Join me for this free 45-minute bootcamp on Wednesday, April 16th, and start feeling stronger today. Grab your spot now at wellnessbyval.com/bootcamp. And don't worry, if you can't attend live, still sign up because I'm going to be sending you the recording and the free resources. So why not? Let's do this. And I cannot wait to see you in the bootcamp. I love that because when you're postpartum, and anytime, whether you had a baby or not, and you have this body checking, I think what's especially common, you're checking in the mirror, like you said. And I like how you said it's normal to look in the mirror, to look at yourself. Okay, does everything match? What's going on? But when you're constantly going back to the mirror, I think that you mentioned reflective services. I find that really interesting. I haven't noticed that
Yeah.
before, where people may kind of just, are they looking at themselves? Or if you're in a gym with all mirrors and you're constantly
Mm-hmm.
looking like, do I need to suck in? Is my
Mm-hmm.
postpartum belly over my yoga pants? Or like what's going on? That you're right. It brings more focus to this negative thought of your body versus,
Mm-hmm.
hey, my body is awesome. I had a baby, I'm feeding my baby. And you mentioned really just being intuitive with what your body's communicating with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm hungry,
Yes.
let me eat. I'm satisfied, let me stop, listening to those internal cues. And that can be kind of
Mhm.
distracting as a mom when you have so
Yeah,
much going on.
100%. So that's why, like, with the students that I work with inside my program, that's a big area of focus. That's body wisdom is one of the three key pillars that we focus on. And it's not just eating intuitively, but it's kind of answering the three questions on what is my body like? What is my body telling me? Like, what signals are happening? What do they mean? And then what do I do with that information? And so we can use all of that, not to let our bodies control us. Right. I can't, when my alarm goes off in the morning, I can't just go, okay, well, I'm just going to listen to my body and get more sleep because it's telling me it's still tired. Well, I'm going to be tired every single day of my life when I have a toddler or a kid that's waking me up, at all
Yep.
hours. Right. But I can take the information my body is telling me into consideration and go, okay, yeah, I probably am tired. So maybe I didn't eat enough, or maybe I need to prioritize getting to sleep earlier, or maybe I need to get more non-sleep rest during the day. So we need to be able to cultivate that body wisdom, especially postpartum, because that's a whole new challenge because your body feels differently and it's telling you different things. And it's a process of learning it and redeveloping that trust that your body is not out to get you. It's going to maybe start responding. It's going to be in a stage where it's responding a little differently than it used to. And so you just got to there's a little bit of a learning curve there and you got to take the time to relearn it.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I love the term body wisdom and knowing that when you have a baby, you become a mom. When a baby is born, a mother is born, and you're not going to be the same exact person that you were before, especially,
Mhm.
physically. So something I noticed, whoa, I got hips and I need to get bigger pants because I have bigger my hips. And that's just because of having a baby and childbirth. And I'm okay with it. And being able to listen to what our body's asking of us, giving
Mhm.
ourselves grace and having that body wisdom. I love that so much. I'm gonna start using that if you don't mind. I'm gonna refer
Go
to
for it.
you. Go get
Go
your
for
body
it.
wisdom from Brittany. That is awesome. And I think, like you said, as a mom, we have to pay attention to that
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
now than ever.
Yeah. It's super important to work on that mindset before you actually get into the tactical and like, how do I now actually start reducing body checking behaviors?
So working on the mindset first before, and the mindset kind of takes us back to the social media because that's messing, I would say it depends on what you're taking in, right? But that is
Yeah.
definitely having an influence on our mindset, whether positive or negative, which is then having an impact on maybe body checking or how we're treating our body. So what role would you say that social media plays in body image issues for moms, and how can they manage it? Because I would imagine that most moms, most people are on social media, and maybe when you're breastfeeding at night, you're on social media
Hmm.
or during the day, or you're watching TV, and maybe it's like the Kardashians or some type of show that's kind of influencing your own body image.
Yeah.
what would you say that has a role in the issues for moms?
Man, I think it depends on the type of social media usage you do or you have a habit of. I mean, we spent especially in those. I mean, we're still breastfeeding at 13 months right now. So, like when I sit down to feed my son, if I'm not also in the middle of my family and doing other things, like it's pretty normal for me to pull my phone out and work on something or watch something or scroll sometimes. And so, social media can absolutely have an impact. Although I'm going to go left field a little bit here and say it's not always negative. You can have very helpful, like it can do helpful things for you, but as a whole, when you're not using it very strategically and intentionally, you're going to naturally fall into the comparison trap. I think you've got to make sure you have realistic expectations when it comes to social media because a lot of us, again, with kind of the comparison, if there's accounts that you normally follow where they may have nothing to do with body image or postpartum time period directly, but you start seeing women who are out and they're showing an innocent Instagram story where they're out and they're jogging in their jogging stroller with their 3 month old. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's like she's doing that. I'm 4 months postpartum and I'm not doing that. It's just easy to fall into that trap of like, okay, well, they're doing this and their life must be sort of similar to mine, so I should be doing this. So I think the easy answer that we probably all hear a lot is like unfollow accounts that are causing you to compare or they're having a lot of undue stress or creating some anxiety. And yes, absolutely that can for sure be helpful. But I think the other things you have to watch for too, unfortunately, with social media is ad targeting because if you watch a reel for more than like 2 3 seconds, it seems like I can't give you the stat. I'm not an Instagram expert, but I said something the other day and Big Brother, I'm sure on my phone picked it up. I had on somebody's website, I was reading, I don't know, show notes from a podcast episode, and they had an ad on that page to some service that I wasn't even looking for. And that same ad popped up on my social media just because I was on their blog page. Right. So I said eyes on it one time, so they retargeted me. So things like that you have to be aware of too. And there are strategies. I'd have to go back. I have to give you the step by step, but I'm sure you could like YouTube it, use your discretion. But going, okay, how can I go through maybe social media and go to my settings and block certain types of words so that those kind of posts won't even show up on my feed? There are strategies where you can do that. So things like that when it comes to social media, again, it's just kind of you're sort of playing with fire, I'll say. Because
Mhm.
you can intentionally look for resources that are going to be helpful. There are certain settings you can put on your feed, but I feel like most of the time you cannot control what comes up. And so you either have to have really strong, healthy boundaries around it, or there may be a period of time where you say, hey, instead of sitting down to nurse and scrolling my phone, I'm going to have a list of specific YouTubers that I follow, or I'm going to listen to an audiobook, or I'm going to go through some course content or a module on something that's helpful, something that's actually going to help me improve. So maybe if they're working with you, Val, you've got like a homework assignment that they can work on, right? Like something to challenge them. So it's like finding other things that you can do and having a plan for that in place when you know you're going to have some, I'm going to call it downtime. Breastfeeding is not downtime, but time where you're not distracted by lots of other things going on. If you don't have a plan in place, it's super easy to fall into the comparison trap.
The comparison trap is big.
Mhm.
Whether, like you said, whether they're postpartum or not, or she's postpartum, and I think that's normal. I think it's normal to be
Yeah.
able to kind of do that, right? You're kind of just taking in your environment and what's going on, but it's what you do with that information
Yeah.
that I think is very, very powerful because I do that. I'll be like, whoa, this mom is doing this, and we're about the same type. Okay, hold on, Val, back up. We're totally different people, totally different
Hmm.
lifestyles, and our
Yep.
journeys are different. And that's okay. She's a badass mom, excuse my language. She is doing amazing things, and that works for her. And I'm also doing amazing things where I am at in my journey, in my healing process. So that comparison trap, I think, really leads to bigger body image issues of body checking or this restriction or over exercising, doing things that aren't going to actually fuel us, where you're actually getting away from that body wisdom, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Because the more you allow outside influences to negatively influence you, you start going, oh, I need to do that. I need to follow that role. And it pulls you away from being in tune with your own unique body.
Exactly. Your body's like, wait, no, Brittany, hold on. I'm trying. This is what we need. And you're like, nope,
Yep,
nope, we're going to do this.
yep, yep. And that's
That's
the struggle
great.
because for so many people, having those rules or those regulations feels like the safety net because it's like,
Yeah.
well, this person got results with this. And so if I follow this path or this structure or these guidelines, then I don't have to make the decision. And therefore, I don't have to trust my own intuition. It's just that it's kind of like that sneaky reason that most people don't even realize that people diet or they use a specific type of guideline because I don't want to have to be the one responsible for the decision making. So if it fails, it's not my fault. Um, and that's why it's so important to actually take the time and have the patience to develop the body wisdom because you've got to learn how to trust yourself and know that I'm going to use the word mistake, just for lack of a better word, but that you make mistakes along the way and you learn, oh, well, my body gives me this signal. I thought it meant this, but it actually means this. Or sometimes it's one of these three things. And so it takes trial and error. Well, you and I had this conversation just
Yep.
earlier. Like it takes that trial and error process to go, okay, well, I need to learn what my body is actually telling me, and I'm not going to get it right every single time. And that's okay.
That's okay. And that takes time, I would imagine, especially before. What were your habits and your thought processes before you got pregnant? Because that's definitely
Mhm.
going to influence and probably enhance postpartum. I always talk to my clients and I tell them, think of your body is doing this for a reason. Your body's
Mhm.
communicating and giving you these signals, these emotions for a reason. Why does my body think this is a good idea? And trying to really work with your body instead of not working with your body. So finding that
Yep.
body wisdom. I love that so
Yep.
much. I love that.
Yeah.
How can a mom set realistic body image expectations for herself after having a baby?
Well, kind of like I said earlier, like it's taken me probably a year, give or take, to just feel kind of back at home in my body. And that's not because my body is back to where it was before. It's just I'm kind of in this rhythm and this routine now of having a new level of body wisdom with where my body is now. So, from a realistic expectations standpoint, don't give yourself a timeline. Got to bounce back to this at this like by the time baby is 6 months old or a year old or heaven forbid, 2, 3 months old, right? I should be feeling back to my normal self. Um, the other thing I will say with this, whether it is nutrition, movement, caring for your body in another way, like take care of and fuel your right now body, not your pre baby body. Because if you were following some kind of nutritional guideline or you had habits on, I normally feed myself about this much and we do this many snacks a day or this amount of protein, if you try to eat the same way that you did before baby, when your body and your hormones and things are different, you're probably not going to feel great. So instead of focusing on how do I change my body and get it back to where it was before, or how do I get back to eating the way I was, again, with the body wisdom, you've got to learn how your body's operating right now, what are its current needs, and then realistically provide the fuel and the care that it needs now, knowing that that's likely going to ebb and flow and change as baby changes, maybe as you continue to breastfeed or you wean, or maybe you're not breastfeeding at all and you know, okay, well, when I for me at least, like when I breastfeed, I'm way more hungry than on the days that I'm not, or I'm not doing it as much, or after I wean. And so just recognizing I almost want to say don't set expectations because it changes so much. So let the expectation be that there's going to be a lot of trial and error and a lot of change. And change for so many people is really uncomfortable. So embrace the chaos, and know that even though it feels chaotic and it's going to constantly change, it's like you're going to develop a rhythm, the more and more that you get really uncomfortable, you take that messy, unpredictable action and you just do the hard thing and you try to listen to what your body's telling you and then take that with a grain of salt and go, like with the alarm clock situation, like I can't only listen to my body, but I need to take what my body's telling me into consideration with other things I have going on as well, so that I can honor my body's needs in a way that is beneficial to me from a physical, mental, and spiritual health standpoint.
I love everything you just said, Brittany. It's like that is it. That is amazing. And I love giving yourself the expectation of not having expectations, which I think can be really hard, but
Mhm.
don't give yourself a timeline. Don't focus on, like you said, your body right now and fueling your current body. And you made a good point because I think many of us were fueling our pre-pregnancy body. And we're
Mhm.
not there. We're not that person anymore. We're not that woman anymore. We're now a mom who is taking care of an infant, maybe other kids, and then we have to go back to work. We have to fuel our current body now and then take in the input that our body's communicating with us and say, okay, this is what's going on. Maybe I need this. Maybe I need to take some extra breaks during the workday. Maybe instead of scrolling on my phone while I'm breastfeeding, I can do some deep breathing to help relax, which will also help breastfeeding. Everything you said, Brittany, that is
Mhm.
awesome. I love that. I think those are realistic body image expectations that any person, but especially a postpartum mom, can set for herself after having a baby. That takes me to self compassion. How important is self compassion when it comes to healing body image struggles or those thought processes after having a baby?
Oh my goodness. The short answer here is it's so important. Um, self-compassion, I would lump again into the process, not of body wisdom, but one of the concepts that I teach a lot of my clients is body trust, which is like your prequel to body wisdom. And a huge component of body trust and developing that is patience. And when it comes to self compassion, we just have to be really patient with ourselves, especially in such a unique period of life that a lot of other people, right, if you haven't been through it, you just can't possibly understand physically and mentally what it is like. And so when your body is healing, when your thought processes are changing, when your routines are changing, we've got to give ourselves grace and know that different is not better or worse. It's just different. So whether it's your body that's different, which it's going to be, like there's going to be some things that will be different, it doesn't mean you can't still enjoy it and appreciate it and do things that you love. Um, your time is going to be different, but it doesn't mean, again, that you can't use it in a way that improves your quality of life or you have a high quality of life, regardless of if you're waking up three times a night or you're sleeping in, until 10 o'clock. Like, you've got to give yourself that compassion and that grace to navigate that time in your life. And navigate all these different areas we've already been talking about today when it comes to food, nutrition, body image, caring for yourself, rest. That's that's the short answer there. It's super important and you can't again kind of hold yourself to this expectation or standard that you're going to get back to people use the term like the way things were, right? Give yourself the freedom and flexibility to say, how do I navigate this new normal instead of trying to quote unquote bounce back to whatever it looked like previously.
I love that. I think self compassion is it's critical, and we, especially as a mom, you're doing all of the things. You're not only healing physically and mentally, but you're taking care of the house, the family, the baby, going back to work, giving ourselves compassion and that grace. We need it. And it can be the
Mhm.
smallest thing. Like it doesn't have to be this big thing that we tell ourselves or that we do. It can just be shifting that thought process of, oh, I hate my body, or whatever negative type of comment it is. Maybe we can say something positive or even say something neutral of, hey, you know what? My body's different. That's okay. This is where I'm at right now. It's
Mhm.
changing, but I'm able to breastfeed my baby, or I'm still able to take care of my baby and laugh and enjoy my body and do the things that I want to do, things that are
Yeah.
important. important to me.
Hmm.
No, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
All of this information has been so helpful. Thank you so much, Brittany, because I think moms are going to really, really appreciate all of the tools and the information that you have spoken about today, because it's something that we deal with. As you know, with three kids, it's something that ebbs and flows, as you said, and we need to be able to give ourselves compassion, grace, and understand that there are ways that we can trust our body and listen to that body wisdom. I want to
Yeah.
end with one last question. What advice would you give to a mom who feels overwhelmed by the changes in her postpartum body?
Oh, first I would say, girl, you are normal and you are in good company. Because overwhelm, like postpartum overwhelm is normal. So get around other women who have been there, and especially the ones who are caring for themselves well despite the overwhelm. Um, Try to not surround yourself with people who are going to constantly talk negatively about their body or changing their body. And care for yourself well, regardless of how you feel about your body. Because if you think about it, like if you had a family member or a friend who you really loved and they said, "Hey, would you babysit my dog? We're going out of town. Will you like dog sit for me?" And you're like, "I'm not really a dog person. I don't really like dogs, but I love you. I'll take care of your dog for you." Right? Regardless of how much you like that dog, because of your love for the other person, you are going to let the dog out to get fresh air. You are going to feed it. You're going to make sure it's got water in its water bowl. You're going to care for its basic needs. You might even let it hop up on your couch or pet its head every once in a while, right? Like give it some attention. And we've got to do the same thing for our bodies, regardless of how much you like your body or you dislike whatever feeling you have about it. That doesn't change its needs, and it doesn't change how worthy or deserving it is to be cared for. So don't let your feelings like let your feelings be an indicator, not a dictator of the way that you care for yourself. Don't worry about how you feel about it some days. Not saying your feelings don't matter, but they can't drive the bus. And so think about those things. Decide to, hey, I'm going to move my body a little bit just to get some blood flow and help me to think more clearly, right? You don't have to go run a marathon. Some days for me, I just walk down to the mailbox and back, and I get a little bit of fresh air and sunshine, right? And so give yourself some grace, put yourself around people who have been there, have done it, the thing, and are in a place where they're not going to make it harder for you. And then, I guess last thing here with this is if you're still overwhelmed when it comes to body image specifically. Um, I have, I was just thinking about this. I have Val a gift that I give to my students called the body image cheat sheet because we talk about body image so much. So if you feel like listeners would appreciate that or have some use for it, I go it's specifically to help you reduce body checking behaviors. So
Yes.
um, I will the link that I use for my clients for that is just brittanybraswellrd.com/body image gift. And I'll send you there's like a little coupon code you can use for it to get it for free because usually
Perfect.
it's got a little price tag on it, but I'll just give you a coupon code and your listeners can have it for free if they would
That's
like some
awesome.
help with reducing body checking behaviors. Because um, when you just feel overwhelmed, all those changes, if you can focus less on that body checking and spend less time thinking about your body, that's more time you get to spend quality time with your baby. So
Exactly.
that
I
would be
love
my
that.
encouragement.
I love that. I think that is the best advice. And say that link one more time. I will put it in the show notes, but say it one more time for the listeners.
Yeah, it's brittanybraswellrd.com/body image gift. All one word.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think that is going to be a great help for moms to be able to navigate this period and especially helping with the body checking because they may look at it and, or even right now in this conversation, think, oh, I don't do that. But then when they're actually going through it, they're like, oh,
Mhm.
wait, I do this or I am doing that. And what are ways that I can reduce that? So, like you said, you can spend quality time with your baby, with your family, and just living life. Living life. I love that. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Brittany, for joining us today and for giving us this wealth of knowledge. And I'm so happy that you're able to be here.
Thank you so much, Val. It was a pleasure.
Thanks. Hey mama, I hope you loved today's episode. If it resonated with you, would you please take 30 seconds to share it with another mom, a mom who's looking to make healthy eating and exercise easier, because we need that. And if you haven't yet, I would be so grateful if you could leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts. It truly means the world to me and helps the show reach more amazing moms like you. All right, time to chase my toddler around. Stay strong and nourished, and I will be back on Monday with another episode. Talk soon.